Hey guys, this is Standard 11, solving equations with variables on both sides. Up to this point, we've done one-step equations, two-step equations, and multi-step equations. This is going to remind you a lot of each of those. There's just one more thing involved, and that's getting all of our variables to the same side of the equal sign. Go ahead and pause the video now and write down these 5 steps of solving an equation with variables on both sides. As you go through and solve equations, be sure to go back and look at these 5 steps. These steps are going to help you be successful when solving equations. All right, let's look at example 1. Step 1 asks us to distribute. If I look at my equation, I don't see any distribution that I have to do, so I'm going to go ahead and check it off. Step 2 asks us to combine like terms on both sides. What that means is, on both sides of the equal sign, I'm going to combine like terms. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw my line down my equal sign. I'm going to use the square and circle method to help me figure out what my like terms are. On the left-hand side of my equal sign, I'm going to put an L above the left and an R above the right. On the left-hand side of my equal sign, I have a term positive 5p. I'm going to put a square around it. Do I have any other terms on the left side with the variable? I don't, so I'm going to move on to my next kind of term. My next term is a negative 14 or a minus 14. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that. If I look at my left side, I don't have any other terms that need to be boxed or circled. So I'm going to move on to my right side. On the right side, I have one term with a variable, so I'll put a square around that. And I have one term without a variable. Be very careful about step 2. It says to combine like terms on both sides. What that means is, if there are any terms to combine on the left side, go ahead and do that now. And if there are any terms to combine on the right side, go ahead and do that now. However, I don't have any terms to combine on either side. So step 2, check. Step 3 says to add or subtract all variables to the left side. What that means is this. On this left side of my equal sign, I want to have every single variable that is in this equation. So I already have one, which is 5p. If I look on my right side, there's a variable there too. It's right here with the coefficient 8. What I want to do is I want to get this 8p to the left side of my equal sign. In order to do that, I'm going to ask myself, how do I undo a positive 18? And the answer to that is to subtract 8p from both sides. When we do that, we want to be very, very careful that we only subtract the 8p from our 5p. I cannot do negative 14 minus 8p because those two are not like terms. What I can do is 5p minus 8p, and I get a negative 3p. Everything that I didn't touch, I'm going to go ahead and bring straight down. So I'm going to bring down the minus 14, bring down my equal sign. This 8p minus 8p cancel out to be 0. And so I'm going to bring down the positive 4. Now I have a two-step equation that I know how to solve. Step 3, check. Step 4 says to add or subtract all numbers without a variable to the right side. So what I'm going to do is look at the left side of my equation. I have a negative 3p, so that has a variable, and then a minus 14, which does not have a variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add or subtract this negative 14 to the right side of the equation. In order to figure out what I need to do, I'm going to look at the sign in front of my 14. Because it's a negative 14, the opposite of a negative is a positive or addition. So I'm going to add 14 to both sides. When I do that, my 14s are going to cancel out, and I'll be left with a negative 3p, my equal sign here, and then 4 plus 14, which is 18. Step 4, check. The final step is to multiply or divide by the number in front of the variable. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by negative 3. And that'll leave me with p equals negative 6. At this point, I can go back in, plug my negative 6 into my original equation, which was 5p minus 14 equals 8p plus 4. What should happen when I plug this negative 6 in is the left-hand side should equal the right. Let's see. 5 times negative 6 minus 14 equals 8 times negative 6 plus 4. 5 times negative 6 is negative 30 minus 14 equals 8 times negative 6 is negative 48 plus 4. Negative 13 minus, negative 30 minus 14 is negative 44. And negative 48 plus 4 is negative 44. So this checks out. Example 2, p minus 1 equals 5p plus 3p minus 8. Let's go through the steps. Step 1, distribute. We have nothing to distribute. Let's move on. Step 2, combine like terms on both sides. Again, I'm going to use the square and circle method. Draw my line down my equal sign. A square here, a square around 3p, and a circle around negative 8. Only on my right side do I have any terms that I need to combine. What I'm going to do is bring down my equal sign, bring down the p minus 1. 5p plus 3p gives me 8p minus 8. Step 2, check. Step 3 says to add or subtract all variables to the left side. I only have an 8p on my right, so I'm going to subtract this over. Minus 8p minus 8p. I'll be left with negative 7p minus 1 equals. Now be very careful. Right here, I have a minus 8 or a negative 8. So when I bring it down, I need to be sure that I bring the negative sign with it. All right? So step 3 is check. Step 4 says to add or subtract all numbers without a variable to the right side. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. And what I'll have is negative 7p. My 1's cancel out. Negative 8 plus 1 equals negative 7. Step 4 is check. In step 5, multiply or divide by the number in front of the variable. Number in front of my variable is a negative 7. So I'll be left with p equals 1. Again, I can go back and check my answer. So first I'm going to rewrite my equation. And then I'm going to plug in my 1. So 1 minus 1 equals 5 times 1 plus 3 times 1 minus 8. Of 0 equals 5 plus 3 minus 8. 0 equals 8 minus 8. Check. Alright, this last example, step 1 says distribute. And I see a number right next to my parentheses on the right side of my equation. So first, I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So I know that I need to take my negative 2 and multiply it through to my positive 1, and then multiply it through to my negative 7n. When I do that, I'm going to have negative 2 plus 14n. Bring down the left side, 5n plus 34. Step 1, check. Step 2 is to combine like terms on both sides. If I use my box and circle method, it looks like I don't have any like terms I don't have more than one term on each side of the equation. Step 2, check. Step 3 is to add or subtract all variables to the left side. So I have a positive 14n. I'm going to subtract 14n from both sides. This is going to leave me with negative 9n plus 34 equals negative 2. My 14n's cancel out. Step 3, check. I'm going to add or subtract all numbers without variables to the right side. So I'm going to subtract 34 from both sides of the equation. I'll be left with negative 9n equals negative 36. Step 4, check. And then finally, divide both sides by negative 9, which gives me n equals positive 4. Let's remember that a negative divided by a negative always equals a positive. What I need to do now is I need to go back and check my work. So I'm going to rewrite my equation, and then I'm going to plug in 4 for n. So I have 5 times 4 plus 34 equals -2, open parentheses, 1 minus 7 times 4, close parentheses. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 34 equals, and what I'm going to do is follow my order of operations, so I need to do what's inside my parentheses first. And inside my parentheses, I have multiplication. So -7 times 4 is -28. And then 1. 20 plus 34 equals 54. And then I'll have -2 times 1 minus 28, which is -27. And -2 times -27 does equal 54. So this checks out. So go ahead and pause the video now and try these 3 problems. When you unpause, there will be a worked out solution and the problem, and the answer, excuse me. All right, so for number 1, we should have gotten x equals -7. If you need to check your work, you can look at the work on the screen. Number 2, after following the steps, you should have had a k equals -1. And finally, for number 3, we should have had an x equals +3. If you felt like this was very difficult for you, don't worry. We're going to have lots of practice today in class, or tomorrow in class. So get excited for it. Good luck.